Whoa! Hey, everybody, it's Thursday again. That means another Carvers and Creators, a weekly demonstration and discussion with pumpkin carvers, sculptors, and multi-talented artists from around the world. First, we ask that you please give us a like and a follow on the platform you're watching us on. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from, and if you have any questions for the Carvers and our special guest. Let's meet the Carvers. Booyah.
Oh, look at that guy.
First, he is an artist and sculptor from Boston, Massachusetts. He was a judge on season 3 of Outrageous Pumpkins on the Food Network. It's Paul Dever. Welcome.
Happy Thursday, everybody.
Hey there, Paul.
Good to see you. Next, he's a multimedia sculpture artist from Tucson, Arizona, and a finalist on Halloween Wars 2019 on the Food Network, Matt Harper.
Hola, amigos.
Our guest tonight is a sculptor, designer, mold maker, and fabricator from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Please welcome Christian Hanson. Welcome back.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome back, buddy.
Good to have you. My name is Michael Mondragon. I'll be running the show, moderating comments, and chiming in from time to time. Oh, Paul. My eyes are up here.
Yeah, right? It looks like you're standing against a pair of whitewashed jeans.
Oh, yeah. Acid wash.
Bringing me back.
It's back.
Let's check out our sculpts from last week. The subject was disgruntled zombie. Matt, outstanding.
That was my last pumpkin. Thank you. I went with disgruntled first and zombie second to make him look to get the disgruntled part in there. Like he's like, really, you know, like I had to work again. Yeah, but then it was fun. It was a really fun process, kind of digging it out and making the little nuggets and sinew and stuff like that. And that was really fun. So for my last pumpkin of the year or first pumpkin of 2023, maybe that's the way to look at it. Anyway, yeah, it was a fun one.
So smooth on the surface and so disgusting underneath. The way you did like the nodules or whatever, it's so gross. And like you got this almost like a window curtain fold of an awesome cheek there, like where the wrinkles kind of fold down, and then
that was like a happy accident. Thank you. That was like a happy accident because I had made a bunch of lines thinking I was going to go with, full on carved up zombie, like just ripped up. And then I didn't. And they ended up being perfect for like the squint of his eye and just like kind of trailing down. Hey, I was happy with that. That was a total accident though.
Looks great.
Yeah, looks
thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Looks like a pomegranate, like you open up a pomegranate.
Fuck, gross.
Yeah, so good.
So good. So gross.
And here's Paul's, but I want to give this its due. So I'm going to add this to the stream.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to float it back here. Yeah, I mean, this has so many dimensions to it. So I had to pull the video of it. I mean,
that's a full 3D.
Oh my God.
Not 3D. They're all 3D there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I got it scanned.
So good.
Christian, I'll need your help to give him functioning lungs eventually.
Of course.
Yeah, that was a fun one. It was a perfect squash to do it. I only came through to came close to busting through in the corners like of the shirt underneath the tie. It got a little thin, but everything else, I mean the neck, I had the neck narrow to the point where I was trying to finish the eye and the head was like starting to bobble. I'm like, wow, it's gonna break.
How many full round all the way around 3D ones have you done? You haven't, maybe a small handful, right?
I think this might be the first one. That was,
it's
like the back of the skull was taken off. Then I did the
whole back of the neck, the back of the ears,
the strain on the neck.
Sure, everything. Outstanding, Paul. This was like top. This hits like top 5. This is awesome.
Oh, thanks, buddy. Not my best time management. Not my best planning because it took forever, and I was cursing the fact that I got into it. But it was a fun project. Because it was a project. It wasn't just like the normal couple hours. This one took a while.
Do you have before pictures of the squash, whatever it is, beforehand, or?
Yeah, it looked like this, Christian.
Yeah, okay. Not that particular one though.
They all pretty much look the same.
Yeah.
No,
It's
I
pretty
don't know.
standard.
I took it. Yeah, it didn't have a big bell. It was sort of, I don't know. I might have a picture of it, not like half rough carved, where I hadn't quite chopped out the.
It's hard to believe you were able to get that neck that thin.
Oh, so you
I
call me a
know.
liar. Oh, that's what it is. So you call me a liar. I get it.
No,
I knew where we were going with this. Okay. Hold on.
Good night, folks.
Let's go to the tape. Let's go to the phone.
We'll see you next week. Oh, sorry. But, so Paul, like one last gushing point about it. So not only is the expression great, but the tie, that whole thing. This could be made out of anything. I mean, if you were to show me this and you said I made it out of clay, it'd be kick ass. But this is a butternut squash.
Yeah,
that's the part that is like, and you have to know the anatomy of a squash, like Christian knows the anatomy of a human, which is a big task. But yeah, it's crazy, and sometimes they break them through all the way.
A lot of detailing to it, so obviously it's still kind of just running the shapes. Son of a damn light.
I now believe you, Paul.
Yeah, thank you. Now I can sleep at night, Christian. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank God for the pictures, Paul.
Right? If you can't see it, it never happened. No, I thought it was going to be real thin, where I had to get like underneath the collar of the shirt. That's like uncharted territory for me. I don't even have a tool that gets in there, so I was kind of waiting for that one rip or when it gets real soft, but it didn't. It was solid, like just below the collar of the shirt, and then because I had cut a lot of the side off to kind of taper it in, so it would balance a certain way. I don't know, whatever. I feel like we're taking a long time talking about this. Move on.
Yeah,
that's so last week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where is it now, Paul? Other than being scanned, it's
I have it in a container. I'm keeping it for a while.
Okay, good. Okay,
cool.
Good.
And John Davis was asking if you're going to make casts or prints of this one.
Yes. I'm now scanning them. I've got the right guy to help me out with the ZBrush tutorial of how to clean them up, and then I gotta grab myself a 3D printer and just start busting them out.
There you go. So look for that one soon.
Totally.
You know, why not?
Yeah,
right
on. You can make it, and the nice part about ZBrush and all that stuff, you can make it the size of a keychain, or you can make it the size of one of those, Easter Island heads if you want.
I could certainly afford that one.
If you have enough filament.
We got to find a really big printer. Yeah.
Yes.
We can do it. Somebody out there.
We're going to need a bigger boat. Yeah.
So I work in pixels and vectors, and here's my offering for this week.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out why he would be disgruntled, and he's being overrun by those dinosaurs when you have no internet. So
that's brilliant.
Don't hate it, don't love it. I could probably work on the type a little bit better, but hey, it's here. It's done.
Michael, what's your process? Are you starting with an image of someone and then starting to distress it to create the zombie effects, or?
Yeah, I have like Adobe stock, so I'll pick like a good zombie, and then I'll totally like kind of give it my style of texturing and just kind of push it, and then these things have just started turning into album art, so I just kind of treat it like that. Yeah. I'm kind of leaning into it now, and it could be a band, it could be a product, but then I always try to figure out like why would they be disgruntled, why was this, and then try to throw in like little Easter eggs in there, like even in the bottom you can see like the little dinosaurs coming at you, but it's like there's always a lot to look at, more than just on the surface. So this has been
a sticker from.
I just made it.
Did you make the sticker itself too?
Yeah.
That's a pretty good deal for that record, by the way.
That's why I figured it had a store name on it, because it's such a low
terrible
price.
record, though. That's probably what the price is all about.
The music's horrible, but the album cover, watch out.
Yeah.
It's still in the vinyl or the plastic too, which is
yeah. I also thought about making him singing or something like that, because it looks like he's kind of singing or like that, but I just didn't have enough time. I go, let's just get this out of here. Let's go with the concept and be efficient about it. But thank you very much. I appreciate it. But
Whoa! Look at Fuller's comment already, huh? John, Mr. Fuller getting in on the action.
Oh yes, he is.
No, he's actually a doctor. He's a doctor.
English teacher.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He knows how to speak English. That's about as much of it.
Well, I actually passed
speaker.
English, John. So
Yes.
yeah.
Well, John says he'll break down. I guess I'll watch this one. Okay.
Thank you, John. Please.
We appreciate it. Well, Christian, we've taken you away from your English class, so I'd like to introduce you to the fourth member of Carvers and Creators responsible for our carving subject tonight. It is the hollow wheel, the center spinner, and as always, Paul will tell you more about it right now.
Oh.
Hello, kids. So, Christian, did we have this last time you were on?
I believe so. Yeah, I remember that.
Good. All right. So it hasn't been that long. All right. So we'll go over it one more time real quick. The wheel. This is what's going to choose the subject that we carve tonight. So we're going to spin it twice. First spin will be the subject. Second spin will be the emotion. Tonight's choices, kids. We have not of this world, Yeti, medical professional for you.
Oh.
Fantasy animal, classic monster, ape, demon, avian, derelict, and guest choice. So be ready. Second spin will be euphoric, robust, agony, furious, astonished, hungry, disgruntled, hysterical, exhausted, and once again, guest choice.
Oh Lord.
Are we ready?
Why do they all
I'm gonna
suck?
put it. Oh yeah, no, there's no getting out of this alive.
I like the upside down. That was good.
Avian.
Now I hate it.
If I have the avian flu, I might have to call. And what is our fine feathered friend gonna be? But disgruntled. We can't do disgruntled 2 weeks in a row.
No, we got to respin.
Oh, the rare respin.
Yes.
We did that last week. Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot to swap out the emotion. Hysterical avian.
Oh,
No.
Wow.
Oh, why God?
I quit.
I blame God for that.
Oh, sugar.
right.
Christmas in Killarney. What are we gonna do?
Hey, here we go. So
Oh,
there it
That's a
is.
good one. I don't even know.
Oh, nuts.
yeah.
That's
You know what?
correctly, I hope.
I think I'll need a nice libation to help me peruse through the catalog of 0 ideas I have right now.
Yeah, let's get the gears rolling with something liquid, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe a little oil, if you will.
Up. There we go.
All right. So we're going to give you 5 minutes if you're going to carve or create with us tonight. That 5 minutes will be spent going around the horn, see what everybody's carving oil is for tonight. Christian, I'm going to start with you. Do you have anything special?
I'm keeping it very, very official. So I'm having a polar seltzer. Going completely alcohol free tonight. So
There you go. Perfect.
You hear that?
It's
Anybody
probably
that
the right
Christian
thing.
works with?
talking about work stuff. I'm not drinking anything. So
Gotcha. Matt, what do you got?
In honor of our guest, when we were at Monster Palooza, different Palooza.
Not Lollapalooza.
We got to hang out with Christian, and we're hoping to do that again. If you're going again, by the way.
we'll see. I'm not sure.
Okay, it might be a last minute thing, but last year it was a last minute thing. So let's just hope you're back. But we got to hang out with him a lot and have a lot of fun. And in that weekend, Paul and I and Mickey probably downed, 50 of these a piece.
Yeah.
So I'm going with an 805 from Firestone, my new Budweiser. It just, it's good. So
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Perfect.
exactly. It's good stuff.
Perfect. Oh, what do you got?
I got a good one.
Okay.
So this is from Castle Island Brewing, which I thought was South Boston, but apparently it's Norwood, Massachusetts, and it's a collaboration with another Massachusetts company
Oh, Zildjian.
called Resonant Groove Encore.
Oh my God. It's gonna taste like
Wow.
grass.
BDH. Yes, it's gonna have a copper taste.
Yeah.
It's made with real blood. 7.3. It's a
Huh.
double dry hopped hazy India IPA, 1 PINT.
Ah,
And that's got some symbols
Good
all
number.
over it. That's a pretty cool one.
That is interesting. Is there any other reason why Zildjian would be a involved with that? Does it like proceeds go to something of it, or like?
It says last year we teamed up with local cymbal making legend Zildjian to create Resident Groove, a hazy IPA to celebrate Carvers and Creators and the cool ass motherfuckers that were. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see. That's just what it says. I was just reading what was on the can.
Wow.
Exactly. No, I think they just a couple guys like to drink beer over there.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair enough. That's cool. What an awesome beer.
We're huge fans of us and drums.
Yeah, who knew? I didn't even know until I read the can. So weird.
My beer tonight is actually from a brewery out of San Diego called Societe. It's actually, this is the Grail Seeker West Coast IPA. It's got a like awesome, it's very much in my style of design. I love all this stuff. It's amazing.
Wow. There's a lot going on.
I like how they have a rabbit on there from Monty Python's Holy Grail.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah.
That's cool.
The rabbit, the holy hand grenade part,
Yes. Yeah, so some cool stuff there. So I don't know much about this one, but it tastes good. So there you go. That's all you need to know.
That's not a label either, right? That's actually on the can.
No, it's actually it's actually on the can. Yeah.
Wow. That's a rarity itself.
Definitely. So cheers to our creations tonight. Christian, thank you so much for being here. Cannot wait to go over some of your work. And well, I'm going to put this up right here.
That's the
cool cup, by the way, Paul. Just real cool.
Oh, thank you.
Very nice cup.
Tell us, Christian, like how did you? I mean, you're working for the Mayo Clinic right now, but how did that all come to be?
Well, they had a job posting looking for. So let me just back up. There's a department at Mayo Clinic here in Rochester, Minnesota, where I live. Where they 3D print patient models, patient anatomy, and so on. So that's the core of the department I work in. It's within radiology, which is the department that does all the CAT scans, MRIs, and all the imaging. So they have all of these models from the imaging that they can then, once 3D printing became available as a technology, would print out models so surgeons could see the anatomy of a particular patient, the relevant anatomy for a surgery or what have you, and see it in 3D to scale. And it turned out to be very helpful and very useful for the patient outcomes and so on. So they built a department based around that. So it's a 3D printing department within Mayo Clinic in the hospital, in St. Mary's Hospital, which is where all the operations, all the surgeries are happening and so on. So surgeons can come right up, grab a model, go right back down to the OR and use it to reference when they're doing whatever they're doing. So they then from there, so they have a couple of clinical engineers, a couple of my colleagues who will do the surgery planning models, like I was referring to there, and then they create tools as well for assisting surgeries. So they'll create cutting guides, which will make very precise cuts. And I won't get into all the details of it. There's other information out there about it. But so it's a very engineering and medical clinical mix with the 3D printing. So the director of the department, Dr. Jonathan Morris, he had met with Andy Hosmer, who is a special effects artist and who was doing work at Boston Children's Hospital and doing simulation models and things like that. And so that guy gave them the idea that we should bring in somebody who has a special effects and an arts background to kind of bring these models to the next level and give us the option to make realistic simulation models like the one pictured here. So so they put a job posting up and I applied and got the job. So that was 2021, April or so, I think it was when I started. And so I've been throwing all of my special effects knowledge and sculpture, fabrication, and then all of the digital ZBrush modeling and 3D printing. It's a whole mix of techniques and skills. I'm kind of throwing everything I can at this to make most realistic models I'm able to within the time constraints and so on. So this model, for example, I did last year. It is an anastomosis training model. So it's a deep flap. So it's deep.
We could have told you that. We could have told you that.
What's that? Yeah,
we could have told you
I don't
that.
even get into the technical stuff, which I barely remember anyways. But the essence of this model, it's obviously it's a silicone model based on a patient scan. So like the anatomy of the ribs, that's from a patient scan. That's not me looking at a reference. It's taking a 3D model from a CT scan of the surface of a person who was scanned at some point, and their ribs and a lot of the other relevant anatomy, and then using that to create this silicone training model. And the point of the model is to take a material, a biotubing. It's like almost like a gelatin or some sort of material that is a tube that they'll place on the ends of these. I don't know if you can see that well, but the real dark, like Venus, the vein model there. It has a 3D printed post that you put these basically like a rubber tube on top of, and then they'll practice doing micro suturing. So they're taking these very, very small blood vessels, and for this case, this would be where someone is like had a mastectomy, and they'll take a flap of the fat tissue from the belly, and harvest that, they call it, and then tie that into the blood supply in the chest, which is what you see there, those exposures, it's called, and put that fat tissue in there to create, to reconstruct a breast. So the point of a model like this is specifically for that procedure where one is tying in these very tiny blood vessels together, and to practice that in context, in the physical. So with the way this stuff had been done previously, or as commonly done as a practice model, would be basically you'd have either like a rat, so you'd be taking a rat specimen and practicing on the blood vessels of a rat, or just like a cardboard sheet with a couple of tubes attached to it. So this is like this, let's go to this ambitious level of creating this, in context. So someone will be able to practice doing this skill. It's a technical skill. That's what surgeons, practice, and on top of all the knowledge and, so on. But there's also this technical aspect to it. So Dr. Nita Mohan, who was, I believe, a resident at Mayo Clinic, this was one of her research projects, was to create this realistic trainer. So I got to do this and, hand sculpt the surface and mix 3D printing and ZBrush models with the sculpted elements. And it's everything was thrown at this. So this is
at the end of the day too, you're assisting, obviously making surgeries easier, which is assisting surgeons to get better at their work as opposed to the cardboard and the rats and everything else. But you're actually helping patient lives in a lot of ways. I mean, through your sculpture, in a lot of ways, you're really helping to, make recovery better, make the actual surgery outcomes better. It's stunning. It's disgustingly beautiful at the same time.
Yeah, I mean that's the point of all the work I do, is to help patient outcomes and help the surgeons to have better patient outcomes and help in their training and so on. So they'll come to our department and propose a project like this, and Dr. Morris will decide, yes, this is something that's within the scope of what we want to do, what we want to accomplish, or the resources we have, and we'll see what we can do. So this was such a nice, artist, and I come at it also, as an artist and as a person who loves special effects and, gory, medical anatomy and so on. That's cool. So I put a lot of my own just personal passion for special effects and realism, and do as much as I'm never satisfied with any of this stuff, but this one I really put work into, and it's amazing. We were able to get one of the Mayo photographers to do these photos with his equipment, and like he does so this is one of the photographers who takes in the middle of surgeries, they have a photography department that will take photos of the surgery and document the process and anomalous anatomy and things like that. And so I've been in a couple surgeries as a witness or a observer, I guess you'd say. and they'll call in like, oh, photography, we need somebody to get this certain nerve that's, you know, unusual. And they'll just, the photographer will show up, take some pictures of the anatomy. Has nothing to necessarily do with the surgery even. It's just, you know, they document all of this stuff. So it's a body of knowledge that's being built, you know, day after day. And
Wow.
yeah, so the resources are incredible that you have at a place like Mayo Clinic. And it's a
I
huge
bet.
institution. It's like the #1 hospital in the country, you know, so.
You can say the world, because if it's the country, then it's the world.
It's a world famous institution, so for a reason. Yeah, so here's the sculpture of the surface skin, and the backing, you know, positive structure that I made. So yeah, I use my understanding and what experience I have doing props and special effects and molds and so on, and apply it to this work. You know, when you've built props, made prosthetics and things like that, and I have a pretty wide range of experience doing all kinds of things similar to this. It's really essential to have that understanding of how do you build something like this. You know, how do you separate all the parts? So a big part of my process is figuring out how do I separate the skin and what is one part and what's another. Plus, I'm working with all this patient data. So I'm starting off with these digital models of ribs and surface skin, you know, whatever it would be, tracheas, this, you know, everything, all the vasculature, what have you. And then figuring out, well, how now I have all these 3D models, but how do I make them into real objects that I can cast and we can build something that's useful from. Interestingly, the like even the retractors there, those were something that I think we got. Did we scan a model? I can't even remember. But those are all 3D printed models, you know, because actual retractors are quite expensive, and we have access to equipment, but you know, for a trainer, it's not really feasible to have you know, the real thing there. So sometimes we'll even make the retractors and other surgical equipment, paint them with chrome and so on, and I had to rig it up in ZBrush so it would articulate.
That's so cool.
So here's a model I did somewhat similar. This was all done in ZBrush and then 3D printed molds and 3D printed parts. So this is a thoracic cavity. So it's the thoracic cavity is basically where your lung sits in your chest. And so there's a procedure that one of the surgeons wanted to create a trainer for to clamp, like in emergency surgery, apparently, they'll need to clamp the aorta, which is the big artery that runs from the top of your heart, kind of runs, makes like a U-turn down to all your lower extremities and so on. Yeah. So they clamp the artery in surgery, in emergency surgery situations. And then they'll also clamp the connection between your heart and your lung and your airway in your lung called the hilum. So that's where all that stuff connects into your lung. This is all stuff I learn, you know, as I'm going. I don't, you know, I'm not trained in any of this medical terminology or any of this stuff, but you just learn it by having to build these models or getting to build these models. So I had to make a collapsed lung. I had to make the internal cavity structure, the thoracic cavity, and then also an aorta, the section of the aorta that's going to be exposed. So certain things like that, I plan it out. I think, okay, well, the aorta is going to be silicone, so I'm going to have to create a model, create the molds, 3D print the molds, and while that's printing, while that's happening, I'm modeling a collapsed lung. I model that in 2 parts. I make molds of those. I get those printed, and then I'm creating the shell. So this is the thoracic cavity with these parts all assembled. So you can see on the right of the screen, my right, looking at it anyways. I guess it'd be the left of the viewer screen. That's the 2-part model directly out of the printer. So that's all printed full color on a Stratasys.
Okay. So I got to pause you. So full color printed. So tell me so when a typical 3D print, it's a monochrome, whatever color it happens to be. So when you talk about full color, is it multiple colors or is it just different colors?
It's basically CMYK colored.
Wow.
Plus clear.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, so that's directly out of that's out of the printer after the supports have been cleared off. It has like it has on. If you've done 3D printing, most of us who have printers at home, we're used to this like scaffolding support created from a 3D printer. This machine, which is a crazy high-end industrial machine, it prints with a cured resin, CMYK, and then like a kind of a gummy support material. So that can be scrubbed off and washed off. That's my colleague Eric holding the model right out of the after he had done the post-processing, we call it. So I did the like virtual painting in ZBrush of those two components, which I had to do all this technical stuff. I had to create different low res topology model. That's all this technical stuff. It's kind of, but I had to learn.
You're an English teacher, so you can explain it to us.
Yeah, as an English, in my academic pursuits. But it's a lot of technical stuff. And I'm not a 3D modeler by training. That's cool. I got into this place, into this institution, in this department, and they have this super high-end equipment I've only just heard of, and I had just gotten into 3D printing. And you get into it, it's fun, it's cool, and the technical stuff's interesting. And then you see here's these industrial level machines that print full color, and I'm just thinking like, well, I've got to figure out how to do this. I've got to figure it out. And then you get through some of the learning curve of the 3D modeling stuff, and it's really there's not that much to it. And
what is a full color 3D printer cost? I know that we're a hobby.
I think those machines are like a $500,000 type.
Oh, is that all?
Okay.
It's
So
a Stratus.
we can go in on one, Paul. We'll just go in on it together.
Yeah.
Let me just sell a kid
or a kidney.
Yeah, it's
Kidney.
it's a very expensive machine. The resin material that it prints with is also really expensive. So it's definitely not a consumer level product.
Not a hobby.
Who knows if it ever will be? Maybe some version will become consumer available in the distant future. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I've got access to one, so I'm going to make cool models with it if I can.
So let me ask you a question. You rendered and painted it all in ZBrush, and you were able to print it exactly the way it was within the computer space, right? Could you do that, say, with your special effects background, if you sculpted a zombie head and textured and painted it and did all the bells and whistles, you could print that to look exactly like it did?
Yeah, you could totally. And I've always got that in the back of my mind. The resin is so expensive that it probably wouldn't be. It'd be worth it on a small level. Like I did some eyeballs, which I have pictures of.
Yeah.
Those,
we did those.
It's like $25 a material or $30 a material. For something that's a 28 millimeter, sphere, basically.
Wow.
So yeah, I don't want to get too much into the cost, but it's expensive. But it's like an emergent technology. It's a fairly new technology, and mostly used in industry, advertising. People use it to prototype advertising packages and things like that. So whatever the case, we've got one. So we want to use
you, bud. That's such a cool.
So I have the opportunity. That's why I look at it as I have this great opportunity to use this equipment to create, realistic anatomy and artwork. So, and just see how realistic I can make it. And one of the things I really liked about the way this turned out is I think I got a very nice blend between the 3D printed components and then the silicone components. Actually, if there's anything I'm disappointed in, the silicone paint work I wasn't able to put the amount of work into that, which I would have liked to. But I don't think it's that as obvious on this model that the lung is silicone and the thoracic, interior wall is a rigid 3D printed part. And the heart is also.
I was gonna say that, but I just didn't.
Yeah, we don't want to. Yeah, we don't call you out on that one.
So, that's the challenge with aesthetically is blending these elements to make them functional, but also make them look like the real thing as much as you can.
Yeah.
So.
Incredible.
Yeah, my question with the coloration of it, like, how do you sample a color of this?
Yeah, well, we did tests. I did small little like 2x2 swatches of that cavity. I made a separate model, applied the color to it, and we printed a bunch with different settings to see whether, because what you can do is what you end up doing is you're taking your model, you're doing a process called UV unwrapping. So you're basically like if it was a sphere, let's say, you're in the software, it will flatten the model. So if it's a sphere, it'll flatten it into a 2D image. So you can export like a Photoshop document of the color. So say you're doing a globe, you could do all your artwork, do all your color, and then if the model is prepped, right, if it's unwrapped, you can. So this is a good example. So here's the interior of that, the one side that has the heart on it. So you see that's the lowest topology level, and it's broken up into what they're called polygroups. So it's just the colors are representing different parts of that mesh. So you run it through ZBrush. It has an unwrapping, a UV unwrapping function. And when you set it up right, it can do it in like a split second. So that's what you see on the other side. It's the flattened UV model, or the UV of that mesh. So now I can go in and do all the color and so forth, and it'll just export like a Photoshop document that has that pattern, which whatever the technical stuff is, the curtain, behind the curtain, it will rewrap that onto that model, and that's how you can print it in full color. Wow. So I've been doing a lot of work figuring that out, and how to do it right and do it best.
You should really consider giving up your English teacher degree at this point. This is so much better. But honestly, I just saw a comment from Joey Edwards, who actually we all had broke bread together and drank beer together at Monsterpalooza. But the type of printer and that kind of thing, obviously it's kind of out of our reach for now. But I literally didn't know it existed either until like we just started talking to you about that. You could do full. John's brain hurts. Yeah. You could do full like 3D color printed. So where else outside of the medical world is a 3D color printed thing used if it's that expensive? Do you see them like?
Well, I think that I don't really know. That's a good question. I know just from the researching and curiosity I had before I worked at Mayo. When I first saw these 3D full color 3D printers, I was kind of blown away. And I know for the average Stratasys, which is the company that makes that particular printer, they advertise it as something that people use for product packaging, or perfume. So here we're going to like print a full color version where you can see, they can look at it and decide whether it's the right packaging design or
prototyping and stuff. Yeah.
Prototyping, yeah. I don't think a lot of artists have used, Weta. So the people at Weta, they've created full color eyes and amazing stuff with it's the same machine. It's a J750. They might have a J850, but whatever. It's it's the same basic idea.
950.
So I think special effects houses are starting to, the larger ones maybe can invest in something like that and be able to use that as a means to, to create rigid models and do all this kind of stuff. So
that's great.
Yeah, I have some video here that I'll add. This is actually this is not what the video I wanted. I wanted to put this one up first.
Yeah, so that's that thoracic cavity model being printed on the J750. So you can see all of the gummy rubbery support material around it to keep it, because it has to be printing on a surface. So anything that's an overhang, there's got to be some, just like any 3D printer, there's got to be something for it to print on top of, because it's printing in space. So that's why it builds up a support material around that. But that's really easy to fairly easy to remove if it's not a tight cavity. My colleague Eric will probably say, yeah, we're rolling his eyes right now, saying, yeah, really easy. But
piece of cake.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the printing. I mean, that was a long print too. That was something like, it was like almost a full week of printing, or 5 days or something.
Okay.
Yeah, really, really.
5 days?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a massive print.
Wow.
So this is a big assist for surgery planning. So they're going to be a physician, surgeon.
This is like a simulation trainer. So so they have. So they'll have someone, they'll say, so there's the aorta, the kind of, yellowish tube there next to the heart model. And that part there, it's between the heart and the lungs. That's the hilum. So that's where the vasculature, the artery and vein from the heart, and then the airway as well. Those all go through that into the lung. And so and I don't know the medicine behind it, but I think it's for emergency surgery. They'll have to do an emergency clamping of the aorta. That's where all the blood is, running, is running down to the extremities. So I have to clamp it. So it's just the dexterity of learning on the real, the real anatomy, or something that's close to it. It's matching the real anatomy. Just the hand-eye coordination, getting the certain kind of clamp, and clamping that tube, and then going in between the heart and the lung and clamping that. And so people, can practice those skills on a model like this.
Right.
And then, it also looks real. It's not made of vinyl, and a lot of this.
And when they see it actually on a patient, they've practiced it on something that is texturally and visibly, very similar. So I'm sure that, again, if the goal is better patient outcomes, this is all like aligned with all. I'm assuming it's just brilliant.
That's the whole point. So
wow.
Yeah, your buddy Eric here has been chiming in this whole time. Skulls and spines are the hardest. Lots of tight spaces. The printer prints at 21 micron layer height.
Yeah. So Eric here is my colleague who he maintains, runs the prints. He does the post-processing. So we have in our department, we have the engineering department, which are the people who will design the cutting guides and the anatomy models. And for me, these trainers and so on. And then we have another group of people who they're the technicians, and they'll run. We all overlap our skills and, what have you, but their primary, mission is to run the particular printers and deal with all the technical issues and the breakdowns. And they can be very, there's a lot of troubleshooting, and there a lot of technical expertise that's required to just run. So instead of having to contact the company, send your person out to maintain our machine is down. We have people in our department who that's their focus and expertise. So yeah, it's another amazing, reality of that, of the resources that are available there. It's another close up of that model. So yeah. So is that. So yeah, this was a very successful, it's always kind of a test for me. Like, well, let's see, can I create a realistic looking color? Something that would, that in another way would be done with airbrushing and hand painting and so on. And it's a one-off, and that's all great. But, hey, we've got this equipment. Can we make 5 of these? Well, we could. And it's, each of them are going to be identical to the other because it's using a 3D model rather than a hand-painted, handcrafted piece.
Right.
So there's still handcrafting involved. There's still hand artistry. It's not some plug and play, software that's still doing all this. To me, it still feels like handcrafted artwork. It's just the medium is now I'm using all this 3D printing and digital software to do it.
Now, with that being said, do you find now that you're so busy making actual anatomical parts, has it inspired you and gotten your monster making juices flowing again?
Well, if anything, my monster making stuff, what I want to do more so is stuff that's very like expressive and more character driven and not so technical. That being said, I have this plan for my next project, which is all about like projection mapping and technical stuff, and mixed with like doing some crazy character art. But yeah,
I'll take that as a yes then.
Yeah. It does and it doesn't. Makes me want to go in all kinds of directions for sure.
But like anything else, anything you work on, eventually you work on for work, it leaks its way, especially if it's artistic like this. It leaks its way into your artistic life. I mean, you're gonna be able to pull so many cool things into I'm just already gonna be a little disgusted by what you make. How's that?
Well,
It'd be so realistic. I'll be like, wait a minute. But one really cool vote of confidence, if you look at Christian's stuff and you kind of weed through it, sometimes it gives the disclaimer of, what's that thing where they think it's real, and on Instagram.
Sometimes like that chest surgery model that did get pulled down.
Yeah,
quite a bit.
I mean, what a vote of confidence. To me, that's like a badge of honor. You're like, that's right, man.
It's nice.
It's so perfect. You guys are getting disgusted by it, and it's just made out of rubber. Good job.
So here's a 3D printed mold of the aorta for that model, and then one of the sections of the lung, as I had cast a silicone model, and I have this trick where I use a hydrophilic beads, so like Orbeez, that toy.
Orbeez, yeah.
So I don't use that brand. You can get like 10,000 of them on Amazon for like $10 or something.
Yeah.
So they're just not saturated. So I found that trick years ago working with my friend Nate Courteau and people at 7 Sigma doing some other lung stuff. He was going in one direction, and I kind of stumbled into this Orbeez or this hydrospheres trick. So you fill your mold with the hydrospheres, and once your silicone cures, they come right out super easily, and they just pop right out. So then you have this matrix created in a silicone cast that compresses really well. It's really great for lung models, but anything where you're creating, instead of using a dense silicone foam or some other kind of foam, it's a really good trick. I don't know any other way to do this. So I've been employing it as much as I can, because I call it sill sponge. That's my non-trademarked name for this technique. But I think it's really useful, and I think a lot of people could use it for prosthetics or other things.
I think I've seen that. You have a little video of it on your
I think on my Instagram I have some videos of it.
It's super cool to see. It's almost like that ESMR kind of gratification, popping out the bubbles. It's like, oh, that's cool.
If I ever try to become one of those TikTok people,
you already got stuff.
Yeah, you can have a whole like sill sponge page. Sure. So those are 3D printed molds. We have it's an EOS Velocis 110, I think it's called. But it prints in a nylon powder. So this is the type of printer where you may have seen where it will it'll run a level of a powder, of a very fine nylon powder, and a laser will it sinters, so it merges the layer one layer at a time, and it builds up another layer of powder. So what you end up with at the end is a block of this powder with your model inside of it. So we'll print. So I use that for a lot of my molds. It's a very strong material, and it has a nice kind of pebbly surface, so it works well for these models if I don't need like skin pore level texture. So I've been using that for my molds. And
Christian, did they do the same kind of technique with metals? Because I think I've seen that where they're shooting a laser into a metal like powder bed.
Yeah, the titanium I think is. I know that's one metal that they use. And I've been to the Rapid 3D Printing, the big trade show I was at last year. I was on some panel about doing 3D printing and art, and it's the industrial applications are crazy. They're making like rocket engines out of some of this stuff, and some of it's using like a sintered. I think, I don't know. It's all outside of my experience, but
wow, that's so cool.
So here's so speaking about monsters and creative stuff, this is a sculpture for Savage Silicone, which is a silicone mask company I've been working with over the last few years. So this is my version of a super, super, super old guy, or a lady, could be a witch. I think
no one knows.
You can take this in a lot of different directions. So they have several really nice silicone models or silicone masks of elderly people. So I wanted to just go as crazy as possible, and really almost cartoonishly wrinkly and so on. So this is something that is being molded by my colleague Jen as we speak up in Minneapolis, and should be premiering at Transworld this year by Savage Silicone. So Arthur's always
that's coming up.
good person to work with. And
where is Trans World? I've heard of that.
I think it's St. Louis, I think, is where it's been in the past. I'm not sure if that's where it is this year.
Well,
I'm a little out of the loop on the Halloween products world, but I do have a mask that will be debuting there this year. So I got to have like a little toe in the Halloween special effects world at all times.
You can't lose it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So this was a long process. I'm very busy at my job, and then it kind of takes a lot out of me. So it's hard for me to do my own artwork, especially like physical, sculpture work like this. So anyways, I just finished it on the marathon last week and just delivered it on Sunday to her to mold. So I'm excited to see how this turns out. And
that's awesome.
Congrats, bud.
Thanks. Yeah.
Just another feather in your cap. Just so many feathers. You're almost avian. I'm
going to try to do a sketch of what is it? A hilarious avian?
Hysterical
avian. Yeah. I'll see if I can pull something together. Now that this project's done, I have this like free time concept where I can actually work on my projects again. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, this is Paul, just go ahead and erase avian and just burn the wheel after this.
Come on, if it doesn't,
so here's more
give you anxiety.
Full color 3D printing. So this is
this is cool.
So this is a test of an eye model that I'm currently working on. This is the next version of the brown iris eye model there. So that those are both 3D printed. So it's all 3D printed on this is the J750, the same printer. So it's a test run to see a color calibration and then the resolution of the little capillaries or what have you on the surface to see how tight of a resolution I can get. So really happy with that test. So in a month or so, I'm thinking I should have a new eye, which my goal is to be better than the other one I did there. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think Mickey, I don't know if you saw it, but if I was missing an eye, that's the eye I would use. Like I would, yeah.
Yeah,
you walking up to a bank teller and being like, yeah. And they look at that and then they get hypnotized and become possessed. I don't know. I know I would.
Yeah, so color calibration and all this stuff, you're just trying to figure out how to get the colors accurate. It's like Paul, I think you were asking earlier about that, and it's I've been learning you got to do some tests, and if I want to see how it's going to print, it doesn't always print the way you expect. And I've learned a lot about texture mapping and ZBrush and all this stuff over the last year and a half. So I'm confident that this one will have a much better resolution, look more realistic than the earlier attempt I made. It's always a work in progress. I never feel like I'm finished on any of this stuff.
Yeah, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the CYMK part about it, because everything looks so like RGB, like it looks so vibrant. And that's just from what it's the material problem.
Yeah, it's a transparent red. This resin that is being used. So if you look at that particular model up close, you can kind of see the opaque white, like the 200 and the 250. You can see the depth of those letters in
Got it. Yeah.
So that's a factor too. So it's it's a challenge. We'll see.
So cool.
Yeah.
That's again the same kind of thing as before. It's a UV unwrapped iris model, and there's several components to make this eye. And the sclera is its own separate model. It's UV unwrapped and then subdivided up and blah, blah, blah. Texture maps applied, and then that's transferred to the original model and it's printed. So
obviously,
yeah, it's, you just could.
A lot of big words here, Christian. I don't know.
Paint it, that's what's
could just paint it.
Way. It's like, painting works too, but it's cool to be. It's I got the equipment, and there's something valuable. I think my thinking is once I have a really nice model finished, and I have more control over these features. Once you have that model, then it's a matter of like hitting play on the printer, and you get the same model every time. So, kind of hoping to build up a library. So when I need an eye, I've got a really nice eye model, and and of course I'm always going to want to keep improving on it, making it better, and at least pushing it to the limit I can, you know, I mean, yeah.
Like what would you improve on this? Like looking at it, or something?
Oh, well, the one thing that didn't come through on my earlier attempts was on the sclera, like all of the detail of the capillary, you know, vessels and so on. It just kind of all got blown out. It was too fine a detail, and I didn't understand how to increase the resolution of the texture map, so of that image. Just recently, when I did this model, I was surprised it came out so clean. And I realized, like, oh, I went from 1K to 4K by clicking a button in ZBrush. If anybody who's played around with ZBrush, you would know it's like it's menus within menus within menus within menus.
Yes.
So it's very easy to not know what's there. There's, you know, it's like a never-ending mystery.
Yes.
What it can do. And so when you have a problem, it can be a challenge to figure out, well, what is the menu? Your path I have to take to hit that one button that goes from 10K to 4K.
Right.
Now I know, but I'll probably forget it in a few months. But
right, you're like, where was that again?
Yeah. If anybody has ZBrush questions, they can contact me. I might know, or I might ask them.
Oh, don't worry, you'll be inundated from me shortly.
Yeah.
So I actually had that video that you were actually putting in the capillaries, if I'm not mistaken. So.
Oh yeah,
This is cool.
So I mean, it's cool. You know, it's using what's called an alpha. So it's like an image, which is a standard in ZBrush for creating surface detail, but you can also use it for color and for paint. So I was using an alpha to just lay in these. I just found these patterns online, I think, but it just shows what one of the options you have to like stamp in really, you know, realistic looking vasculature on the surface and then print it, you know, because I did all the technical stuff beforehand. I'm able to just print the thing.
That is cool.
So
it makes it so much easier. You're just building a catalog of things that are going to be useful in your next project.
Yeah. You know, you end up getting these tools of, I've been doing a lot of nerve models. So I created like a brachial plexus. I think we got a picture somewhere in I sent Michael like 1,000 pictures, but you know, and again, I'm learning all this stuff on the job, but all the complex nerves in this area here around your collarbone, and where it goes from your spine through your neck, you know, through down to your arm and all this, and how it all branches. And so having to model all those tubes, like having to model all this stuff. Like on this model, it was all the muscles and all of the nerves, which is what's in yellow. That was all like hand modeled by me in ZBrush, looking at references and other models of this nerve complex. But you can't see from the top as much. But if anybody who's looked into this at all, like the brachial plexus is a super complex array of nerves, and they branch apart, they connect. One connects from here to there, and it all matters what the structure is. It's not, you know, a lot of us in art, you know, if we're making some kind of like veins on the surface, you just throw a bunch of cool tubes and, you know, it's supposed to, you know, it needs to be accurate. So it's quite challenging. But yeah, building up all kinds of tools of like I created like a nerve brush, you know, so I can draw on the surface and it will create a kind of flattened tube on that. And then tools for how to branch it apart and reconnect it. So this is all 3D models that were, I start with a low resolution model and then divide it up so it has more resolution, create all the striations of the muscle and lock that in. And yeah, it's a complex process. So sometimes this model in particular, I kind of thought like, you know, why don't I just do it in clay? You know,
right?
Which, you know, is always tempting, but I'm trying to, I guess, learn as much as I can. Plus, I'm in the world of patient data. So, like all the bones here and the surface, this is all from a patient, and so from a patient CT scan. So, you know, I have a foundation and the vasculature. That's all from this patient scan. It's to show a particular condition, but we have a second model where the arm is raised and there's with the collarbone and the ribs and all that creates like a pinching of all of this. I'm pointing at the screen. All this anatomy, all this the nerves and the artery, gets pinched. So people will raise their hand, their hand goes numb, and they're like, "What's going on?" So this is part of what I do is we'll get a request, I'll create an anatomic model that can be printed out, and in this case, it's a set. So someone who's a lay person who doesn't know the anatomy can sit with the physician. They can say, "Okay, well, here's what's going on. Here's why you're getting this. Your arm's going numb or what have you. It's because the anatomy is getting pinched because of the structures," and they can show them on it. People understand with anatomy from looking at a model more than all this technical talk, and so that's something. So I ended up like sculpting all of those muscles and a lot of this stuff like from scratch to add on to the models that we already had, because this is not stuff that can get taken from the CT as easily, or it's not going to look realistic. So that's part of my role, is to create, kind of like do like what a medical illustrator does. I kind of have a foot in that world, even though I'm not a trained medical illustrator. But
do you, Christian? So from an anatomy perspective, I imagine this is like a crash course in like you're probably
every day. It's a fire hose of information in medical anatomy, terminology, and every day it's
muscles. I mean, the connecting tissue. I mean, the vasculature, nerves. I mean, again, the selfish like zombie wanting you to create a zombie guy in me wants you to take all of that and just make the most crazy ass zombie. Anyway, I just know this is going to translate into something really cool. That's my hope. Well, although what you make already is very cool, but I'm saying like from a monster perspective.
Yeah, that I've always got that. So I'm always kind of mentally taking notes about how it could apply to creating a zombie or something like that.
You still have Saturdays and Sundays, right.
And now that I'm done with the mask, I have open. I can work on my own projects for a little while, anyways.
I love it.
Another example. This one of the things that I've been able to like dip my toes into is doing models. So this was not necessarily for 3D printing, even though we do have a 3D printed version of that. Similar kind of thing. Patient model. This is from a VR application that my colleague Anna was working on and developed. So people who are doing brain surgery can learn the different, they call it an approach, like the direction by which they're going to take a part of the skull off to get access to a brain tumor and dissect it. So I'll do a similar kind of process to the full color 3D printing, where I'm taking the model, I'm cleaning it up, I'm adding detail and so forth, UV unwrapping, texture mapping, blah, blah, blah. So you get the color on it that's printable. But the other, the nice benefit of that is, this is the standard by which, my version of the standard, people use or will create, assets for 3D, for games and 3D animation and stuff like that. So for her, for the VR and AR apps that she's creating, we can do the same kind of thing where we can take patient models, all the anatomy and so on, and create something that now looks much more realistic and has color and whatever. We can manipulate it however we want. It's kind of a different like pipeline. It's a different process to create it so it functions in like a VR app versus 3D printing it or making a trainer. So there's that's the other part of the challenge of this job is like, figuring out how to have one data set that can be used in multiple applications, and one doesn't necessarily translate into the other. So to 3D print something is a different set of requirements than to make it for a VR app, where it's got to have low resolution and normal maps and all this other stuff I barely understand. But anyways, that's the 3D print of that skull, just to see it, because it was anything that's texture mapped, we can print full color. So we did it on that one.
That's insane, man.
So another thing that so this is going into the, again, 3D printed molds. So you can see the mold there. This is of a particular patient who had they called a facial defect, I think, but had I don't know if it was an injury or what have you, but they're doing reconstructive surgery on her nose. And so the surgeons had asked if they could get like what they call a soft model, something that they could cut into the facial tissue and, you know, and reposition things and harvest, I think, tissue from the forehead or something. I don't know the procedure that well, but basically they wanted a silicone mask of this person that would fit on their skull. So we've done several of these. So this is cool for me because this is, you know, most of the stuff I do is more general, like patient education models, or training models that are, you know, just a generic or, you know, general anatomy for training. This is for a particular case. So this is somebody who, you know, who had a surgery and they wanted to do a rehearsal and kind of plan the surgery. So, you know, it's a privilege. I do think it's a big privilege to be involved in something like that and to be able to use like my mold making and special effects skills to create a you know, patient specific model. It's like a trainer for one case, you know. So that's what that is. And so actually what's one of the interesting things about this too is I don't have examples of it, but my colleague Adam Wentworth, he has been automating a lot of processes. So he has scripted, in the software that he uses for his clinical cases, he scripted, you know, create an algorithm, whatever, to do this mold making process with the patient. So this would take me, you know, maybe an afternoon or two to create this, maybe a day to create this mold in ZBrush. So we can now take that same set of patient data, basically like the surface scan, the skull, and he basically hits a button and it creates the mold for the silicone skin in like, you know, 30 seconds or something. So he's now, we're starting out, and they did a case recently where it was using his automated system to do this. So there's tons of work for me at the anatomic modeling unit where I work at Mayo. So I'm not worried about losing work that much. A little bit, I was a little bit concerned, but no, it's great because then now we can do this. It's more feasible to do these kinds of models for, you know, one-offs for patients, rather than me spending all of this time, you know, crafting one in the computer, which is still very time consuming.
Yeah. John Fuller asked, do hospitals purchase these models? So is it just for the Mayo Clinic, or is it for?
Yeah, it's everything we do is for Mayo Clinic, which is a really large institution. But, you know, it's a possibility that in the future we could be licensing things or, you know, training models. We'll see. It's been explored. It's not really the focus of what we do, but this is another patient-specific model of a trachea. So this, you know, this is for a particular patient's trachea. So they called a tracheal stenosis. So stenosis is whenever there's a narrowing of, you know, of the trachea or any other kind of like vascularity or whatever. Yeah. So this is a case where they're going to do a surgery to open up that section of his trachea. So again, the surgeons requested, they saw another model we had done as a general training model. And then, you know, word gets around and someone says, oh, well, can you make one specifically for this case I have coming up? And you think, well, I've already got the plan on how to do it. So yeah, we made this for a surgeon down at Mayo Clinic in Florida. I believe that's what it was for. Yeah. Anyways, so one of the things that I thought this was a lot different than a lot of the other molds I've made. You can see in the middle there, the two white components, the two white parts were 3D printed, and those are what I call invert molds. So the idea is I want to make a silicone mold of the cartilage that's going to go around this trachea. So what I do is I make a mold to make the mold. So I make the box, I separate the model into two parts, and I can use the same surface, the same dividing line. I can use that same surface for both of these parts that get printed. So even though they're both printed separately, when they're filled with silicone, which you see the blue silicone material, I think it's like Mold Star or something, some smooth on silicone, fill those boxes up. Kind of miraculously to me, the silicone parts fit back together seamlessly, you know, just like you would if you had brushed it up. And so it's another, you know, I think a big advantage of doing these digital molds is you can create all these different components. Like I can create the core and the silicone exterior mold, you know, all in one run. You know, I don't have to necessarily go in sequence like I would traditionally, where I'd create a part and then make a mold from that part. This I can I do everything virtually and then print the components, make a mold from there. So this on the far side there, you can see the mold. So the clear interior, that's the interior of that patient's trachea. And then I brushed that up with a pinkish silicone. And then once that's cured, I put it in this blue cartilage mold and like over mold the cartilage on top of it, and then brush the pink silicone on top of all that when that's demolded. So I get a fairly realistic trachea without painting. It's all intrinsic in the silicone. It's more about the process of making it in the computer.
You could. I'm looking at this guy, and you could put little shoes on the bottom of the trachea, and he could be a little dancing trachea man. You know, you could make.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got a face. Like it's awesome.
There's all kinds of possibilities.
His
when
name
you're
could
around
be
anatomy, you start seeing weird things like that for sure.
Stanosis. That's his name, Stan.
Yeah, Stanosis.
Right.
Instead of Stan Winston, he's a mascot for the new medical company, Stanosis. Here we go.
Totally.
I digress. Sorry, Christian.
Yeah. So no,
I just saw a face in the trachea, and I was like, I gotta say something.
So impressive.
It's crazy. I can't.
So yeah, you know, one of the things I'm enjoying a lot about the job is having the opportunity to come up with different ways of solving mold making and fabrication challenges.
Okay.
So, which, you know, that's, you know, technically that's interesting. I find it really interesting, and you know, and you have a success or two, and it's encouraging. So,
it's going to transfer. It's going to transfer so well to, you know, other things you do in your life. I mean, I think it's amazing. It's an amazing ability to get that level of technology at your fingertips. You're going to go, you know, eventually in your life, you'll be like, I had a $500,000 machine that would do this, but now I got to make it. But it's like, it's amazing to have that opportunity. I'm enamored by the, you know, how you are.
I'm trying to make the most of it. I mean, I do feel like it's a gigantic privilege to not just be around the machines, but all of the patient data and all the resources. So, you know, I have a drive. Because I'm just curious and interested in what's possible. I mean, that's part of what draws me to, you know, the effects world and so on, which, you know, I'm in Minnesota. I'm not working in Hollywood or whatever, but the technical stuff has always fascinated me. I've always loved that part of like makeup effects, is all the mold making and so on. So, you know, what I can do and what I can come up with, I will, you know, to whatever I can see as a new way to solve a problem. I like trying to come up with a novel solution to things and kind of think in a new way about how to make some of these pieces and, you know, a different approach. I love traditional work, though. I mean, I always want to say I always think of myself as a, you know, traditional based artist and technical person. So I don't really think.
I got a question about your art. Like, so you clearly had to work all the way through like October, but you're an amazing pumpkin sculptor, and we're enamored with. I mean, again, I think I've seen your work, and it's like staggeringly good. And do you do any pumpkins at all this year? That's my question. Do you do one?
No pumpkins. I did buy a bunch of pumpkins, and I did do my petrified pumpkins. I have those, which are the inserts.
Are they for sale yet?
No, the sale is not happening yet. Not in production, unfortunately. That's something I'm not good at, is like creating products to sell. Things.
All right, you can just give me one. That's fine. I mean, I was gonna buy it, but...
we just take it. You know, we don't have to sell it.
I can be super talk. Pretty easy. So if people are curious, I've got an Instagram page that features the petrified pumpkins, which is anyways, I won't go into it, but it's basically a plastic part that you use in in place of hand carving a pumpkin. You can get some really cool effects.
Oh yeah,
I think it's amazing. So every year for Halloween this year, I took a bunch of pumpkins, carved holes in them, put my petrified pumpkin faces in it. So I can be a little lazy on Halloween because I've got pieces in boxes.
Yeah, and you already did that work, so I guess I'm
onto this other stuff.
That's a gimmick.
I've got a whole new crazy Halloween project in my head, anyways. That I want to do this projection mapping, something I've been obsessed with, but I don't really know much about technically. But I've been encouraged because it seems to turn out if you're curious enough and you just explore the subject, you can usually figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a technical genius. You can just, bang your head against a wall for a year and eventually something will work. So,
yeah, do your version of it.
Fake it till you make it kind of thing. I think we talked about that a bunch of times here.
I just think it's great that you landed in a spot where you can do, what you love to do in the first place, but now it's the technical side. So it's almost like you had to learn a different way to do what you love, but you also like molding, which not a lot of guys like. So you actually stumbled into like a gold mine.
I really like the design part of simulation models. I like figuring out how all the parts go together and trying to come up with a simple way of doing something that's complex, because the anatomy is really complex. It's not as obvious as it as it might look. Even I could tell myself that, like, it seems like, oh, that'll be easy, and then I start digging into it and it's really complex how to get things to work in the real world. That's an added challenge, like when you have to make something that physically holds together and doesn't, the parts don't come apart or break down easily or what have you. So I really like that part of it, the design part. And I was involved in working on an intubation mannequin project with some of my fellow artists here in town for a few years. And from doing that, one of the things I learned about myself was how much I liked design and like fabrication design or kind of product design, and the aspect of how do you build the thing. It's not enough to just create a nice piece of artwork, but you have to make something that you can manufacture. It's all interesting. I mean, everything about fabrication and building things and model making, and I'm amazed sometimes that I'm into all this computer topology and UV unwrapping. I mean, it's I need this stuff for years. I still kind of hate it a little bit.
And by the way, kids, he's getting paid to learn all this crap. Just that's the part. Everyone else just has to do it and like figure out a YouTube version of how to get. You're getting paid, and at the Premiere Academy. So one thing I want to mention is knowing what you're doing and knowing kind of the cutting edge, bleeding edge stuff of like pre-planning for surgeries. If I ever have to go to the hospital, the only one I want to go to is Mayo after this. It's like they got all the cool bells and whistles, and they're like so far ahead of everyone else. It's crazy.
Well, they have it's quite a reputation,
oh yeah, clearly, yeah.
And amazingly enough, I've only worked there like a year and a half, and yet
they have a better reputation now.
Yeah, I don't know what effect I've had on it. It hasn't gone down. I guess the reputation hasn't gone down.
That's a good sign.
But yeah, it's a very supportive environment too. I mean, I've never been in an environment where I was as supported as I am at Mayo. Like, it is.
That's great.
Yeah, it's
Look,
just
if you have to work, you might as well be
like
supported.
A dream
right?
when it comes to being an artist and getting support. For me, it has been. It's been incredible. I mean, the director of the lab, Dr. Morris, has a vision and thinks about what is next. He doesn't just, try to like do the bare minimum. He's going for excellence, and that's the kind of environment I wanted to be in. And I do my best to reach that and don't always make it, but it's been a really great experience for sure. It's very challenging. It can be overwhelming a lot of times.
I bet.
But yeah, it means it's a big difference when you're getting support, when people back you and they understand that your goal is to create the best work you can. That's all that I'm trying to do, is to create awesome stuff. That's, looks cool. I mean, it is cool and it's functional. I want it to be useful. I want to help people. I want to help the surgeons and help train people. And I want the anatomy to be right. I mean, just personally, So it's great being in an environment where that's appreciated and recognized.
Right.
And it's somewhere where it wasn't. So
that's
Badass,
excellent,
buddy. Badass.
So let's go around. Let's see what you're doing, Paul. I'm gonna put up the there's the car hysterical avian.
Oh, look at that.
Obviously, we're just
Look at that. That's amazing.
I got to look up what a parrot's tongue looks like. Right now, it looks like a clam neck.
You're flooring it, Paul. Holy crap. You're moving fast.
That is fantastic.
Don't worry. I'll slow down and stare at it for a couple hours at some point. Like, what the hell am I going to do?
Wow, you're moving. You are moving.
It's that last 10% that gets you.
It really does, Christian. You know that. The devil's in the detail.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well done.
Thank you.
Matt, what do you got? Come on,
Right,
Matt.
So I have this giant nugget. So it originally started with
neck on that thing.
Yeah, so I'm kind of thinking like pelican kind of.
Oh, cool.
So he's
I
got.
like that.
Yeah, now I see
Oh,
it.
wow.
That's a
You
great
kinda see
idea, man. That's perfect.
So he's got that. He's got a good profile. When I saw that profile, I'm like, oh, that kind of looks pelican-esque. I have to look up a pelican because I think I'm way off. But you know,
No, but that looks great already. I mean, that could be. It does. I mean, shit, you can make up a bird. The profile is perfect. I can't believe you even saw that.
well, it's funny because I started, Paul. I started with this thing, which is a.
Watch, you're gonna call it a pumpkin right now.
No, it's well. So I chipped
the
away at the front of a Harper because this thing's like calcified. So it's like you would have just heard like power tools the whole time. But
Yeah, right.
So I have like a surface. I have no idea what's under here or how thick it is. But when I heard avian, I'm like, what round face? I guess an owl, but owls are boring. So I looked at this thing. I'm like, this is more pelican-y or whatever.
Pelican, yeah.
I love that you went with pelican. Like when I think of avian,
Yeah.
a pelican could be a turtle for all I care. Like a pelican is 4,800 on the list of birds I would think of before. But that's a great bird.
Yeah.
Right now he could be kind of. He's looking a little angry because I got to make him hysterical, which will be a challenge. But
Yeah.
you know, I was even thinking of having something coming out of his mouth. Like, you know how they always have a fish tail or something.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Maybe I'll have like a human hand coming out of there.
Nice. I love when you sign yourself up for things like this.
I know, shit. Next thing you know, I'm going to be like, oh, what happened to that human hand you were going to do, Matt? I'm like, oh, it's I did a.
He ate it. Yeah, he ate it.
I did a parakeet. You know.
Yes. Very, very rescuers down under, Mixed Fragile Stash says.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Nice.
You know, I'm going to have Fievel coming out of this mountain.
Well, it also reminds me too. It's like, I mean, you think of birds and immediately you think of like, you know, the ones that fly around. I was like, the fact that you did a pelican, I was even thinking like a stork. And I was like, well, a stork, but the bulge is more by the head and it's not by the further part of the beak.
Oh, yeah. Like turning it around, like having this part be the top.
Yeah. I was like, I mean, just even seeing this kind of reminds me of different things that I wouldn't even have thought of.
So good.
Yeah, well, you know, it's not done. So it ain't good yet. Until it's done. Right now, it's a shell.
I hear you, buddy. I hear you.
You guys have the ability to see everything in a squash.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh my God. Yeah. I go to the grocery store when I'm not staring at people's faces, which are hard enough to not do, because I find people's faces absolutely fascinating, especially when you go to Walmart or some terrible store. But I stare. I'll go through and Paul, you got to admit you do this when you go picking out a butternut, or I'll look at the thing like, there's an eyeball. Oh, look at that. You know, it's like, yeah, I can't help myself anymore.
Yeah, I actually get offended if there's anybody else looking at butternuts to actually buy them for purchase. When I'm there, I'm like, get out of my way. This is my toolbox. You're in my toolbox. I'm like, don't you dare take that one. Don't you, lady, put it down. You don't need it. Stop.
A little elbow room here.
Yeah, right. Or I'll push your carriage out of the way.
Yeah. Good stuff.
The squash game is no joke, you know.
No, yeah.
Squash world. Until pumpkins come back around.
That's right. It's
We got to get pumpkins for June. That's what we got to figure out.
I know. That's like the holy grail, finding
Can
pumpkins
you
early
3D
like that.
print us some pumpkins that we can carve with a material similar to the flesh of one said gourd pumpkin?
Okay. Well, I did mold some pumpkins, and I scanned a pumpkin. So I do have some 3D pumpkin models and molds and so on. So
$6,800 in
I'm
material.
going to add it to the list.
Yeah, we only want one about the size of, I don't know, whatever $4,000 covers.
What's the second mortgage on my house get me?
It gets you 5 minutes on the machine, I think, Paul.
Yeah, right. Stop printing now. It might be ready for June.
Well, guys, unfortunately, it's about that time. The fastest 90 minutes on the internet has come. We still have some pictures I wanted to go through real quick.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this is
that's Clay.
I'm gonna get banned from Instagram on that one right there. That's just
another micro anastomosis model. So very small vascular suturing practice model in context. So obviously a neck surgery kind of situation there. So this is clay sculpted on top of some 3D printed components and molded traditionally and painted in silicone, etc.
That's why I'm not a neck surgeon right there.
Man, are you talented? You are a very talented guy, Christian.
Thank you.
Crazy.
This is a cool one. This is a patient education model set showing the difference between a tracheostomy and a laryngectomy. I had to actually read them. It's been a while since I did this one, but they'll there's two different procedures, and sometimes someone will have a cancer of the throat or what have you, so we'll have to take away that section of the airway. So on the laryngectomy is where the airway has been removed, and so there's no. So this is to illustrate to somebody.
You put the plug, right? Or the,
this is
the little thing over the throat to talk, right?
Yeah, stroma.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that's so on the one side there, that's where the person is breathing out of that hole. The other side, they have access to their airway, but they still have a complete airway.
Oh.
So I think sometimes people confuse this all the time, apparently. So this was a request. We want a simple model to show patients, you got a tracheostomy. This is what the anatomy is. You still have your nose and mouth connected to your lungs. Whereas this person knows, so you got a laryngectomy, you can't breathe from your mouth and nose any longer. So if you're in a emergency situation, they try to bag the person because someone will say, oh, they got a tracheostomy. They're bagging somebody who has had a laryngectomy. The air is not going anywhere because it's not connected to their lungs. So yeah, this was vacuum formed. This was my excuse to get a vacuum former in the lab.
So cool.
Really
well, I actually absolutely learned something tonight, and so did all of you. But I don't want either of those. But I learned.
You know the difference now.
You're a hypochondriac. This is not the job.
Stay out of hospitals, people.
I'm convinced I'm going to drop any minute every day. This is a real cool project. So this is an infant mannequin in progress, obviously, for a pneumothorax. So that's when you have a collapsed lung. That's the term for that. So this is all again, patient scan data mixed with some other things, cleaned up in ZBrush, parts remodeled. So this is to kind of demonstrate how you can articulate the arm, because I have a ball joint for the shoulders, and then the shoulder blade actually rotates upward, and there's a movable spine section, and the neck moves, and to get fairly realistic, a simple mechanism to create realistic positioning, and there's stops on the legs and the arms, so it doesn't bend backwards and so on. So I'm just at the point I have a scan of I think there's a picture of the sculpture of the body skin. So I have a scan of that. I've got to do a little bit of cleanup and then model the mold in ZBrush, and then export the mold. And I can print the body skin, and then I'll have all the parts completed and molded, and then it's just a matter of filling them with silicone, putting it all together. And I'd love to paint it and even get hair. And I'm not someone who's done much hair punching or any of that, but I'd like to learn. And
Now, do your projects have a schedule, like, or can you finish this kind of at your leisure?
Well,
You have many things.
Most of what we do, like a project like this, someone comes to request it. Dr. Morris will say, yes, we want to do that project, for whatever reason, because it's going to be real valuable to education or what have you. But we're not contracted to do it. So yeah, we do what we can. I try to get things done as fast as I can, but sometimes other projects take priority. So this one's been on the back burner for months. So I've been really trying to find some time to get this initial prototype completed, and so they can start running it through and seeing how well it works. But
wow. Yeah, but that's great that you can work on this.
Most of the deadlines are because there's, say, a paper or a conference coming up,
right,
and someone's showing it. They're going to write there's a lot of academic papers, and that's a big driver at an institution like that. Everyone's writing papers, which when you're an artist, you think like, okay, great, write a paper, whatever. But it's all the things are shared. I'm fortunate because I can do all this work. Other people will write the paper. I'll get my name on an academic paper, even though I'm the art guy and I'm the designer and the builder. But I don't have to. I've written papers before, but I'm not I'm not an academic.
As an English teacher, you're always
so full of that.
Yeah, I got a bachelor's degree, but wrote philosophy papers. I didn't write. Here's one of the very few art pieces I've been able to do this year. In ZBrush, a sketch of for a petrified pumpkin. So this would be like a piece that I mold and cast in a translucent pumpkin-like resin.
So this will be opposite of the other ones, right? This will be a projection.
This will be a 3D,
so
3D. Yeah, stick out.
I've got petrified pumpkins, which the idea is to be similar to the kind of work you guys are all doing. 3D carving into pumpkins. And I've got jack illusions, which is lithophane. So that's where it's backlit, and now you see an image because of the way that the piece is made.
Lit,
yeah. So that's my two projects that I have not commercialized.
You got to commercialize them.
Yeah,
that's probably what a smart person would do. Yeah, or a person who has resources, to risk, which I don't. I mean, I do all this stuff for fun mostly. That's what drives me. It's not commercial. I've never been driven to make money. I
would love a copy of the Warmonger, though. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So definitely check out Christian on his Instagram page. Is there anywhere else we can see you, or this is the best place?
Yeah, Instagram's where I put most of my artwork and things like that. That's my primary. I am on LinkedIn if you're in that whole world, which I surprisingly have kind of gotten into. I find myself browsing LinkedIn. I think, what am I doing? But
crowd hunting.
It's like social media, but at work.
Yes,
it is.
But there's cool stuff on there about 3D printing and the medical simulation. But I have a page on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out and say hello and like my stuff. And
right on.
So,
right on. We're on LinkedIn as well. Carvers and Creators is on LinkedIn. You can actually.
You better like us every damn week. Or we're gonna go crazy.
Yes. Here's where we also are. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok. Guys, any last words before we sign off for this week?
Thank you, Doctor.
Coming back. Yes, thank you, Dr. Christian.
I'm going to be at a couple conferences this year. I'm going to be at Rapid doing a panel on 3D printed molds.
Oh, wow.
And our workshop, and then the American Medical Illustrators Conference. I think I'm going to do some kind of a workshop or panel. So yeah, I get invited to some of these conferences too, which is really great. You get to meet
cool
professionals.
Well, hopefully you find enough time in your schedule to come and hang out with us at Monsterpalooza this year.
Yeah. Well, I will try to make it.
Hey, if you put in for it now, Mayo will pay for it between now and then.
You could get a booth.
See, I know Dr. Morris always wants to give a talk about what we do, and I keep trying to convey that this is a fan conference. This is a show. This is not a medical or academic conference, and
hence
you wouldn't know by the amount of blood and guts.
You don't want like academic school stuff at a monster show, but you never know. I think all the other artists are interested in the technical stuff about 3D.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, 100%.
Well, I can just tell by the comments, like everybody's fascinated with this work. So I think there is something there for sure.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yes,
Proven
exactly.
wrong again.
We'll put you over. We'll endorse it for you.
We can get more than 10 people to show up at a presentation.
Yeah.
I'd be amazed and delighted.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us, Christian. For Paul, for Matt Harper, we can definitely say this was not a waste of time this week to do this
We learned
episode.
something.
So we all learned something, and thank you so much, Christian. We totally appreciate it.
Great to see y'all.
Yeah.
All right.
Great to see
Take
you
care.
too.
See you next Thursday with another Carvers and Creators. We'll see you next time. Good night.